Okay, everyone, this is Black Butter then, and attempt 3. This is my third attempt recording this video, so let's hope this one works. So, I'm going to be posting my deleters again. Now, some of you may be asking, why are you posting my deleters? Well, this is probably like an obvious reason, because we actually have them. I actually have them now. But it's also the fact I didn't like my deleter deck profile I posted before, because it didn't feel like one of my videos. So, oh, this is the starter. Sorry about that, guys. What he does is he has 4 runners, so when you ride, he slides out, and he has the ability that if my opponent's Vanguard is deleted, I can send him to the soul, unflip a damage, and draw a card. The other deleter starter is the Grade 3 Searcher. I frankly don't like him, so I prefer that one. The trigger lineup is very basic, but I feel like you need to run a more basic lineup for this deck because of how aggressive it is. So it's 4 heal, 4 draw, 8 critical. I did test 12 crit at one point, and it was fun having the potential ability to double crit a lot more. It was just kind of funny, but I felt like having the 4 draw triggers adds a bit of consistency to the deck when I need to go into a longer grindier game. So let's move on into the great ones. For this guy, what he does is, if he boosts a deleter and hits my opponent's Vanguard, if my opponent's Vanguard is deleted, I can lock one of my opponent's front row rear guards. It's really good. Allows me to prevent my opponent from really doing anything. Next is 4 of the deleter 10k attackers. Very basic. Then 4 of the creepiest perfect guard that exists. Just in my opinion. I think this thing looks awesome and creepy at the same time. But, as I said before, I prefer perfect guards in this deck in particular because it is extremely counterblast heavy. So that's why I don't play Quintet Walls. And then 2 copies of this guy. What he does is, when he's placed in the rear guard, Soul Blast 2, draw a card. So now let's move on into the grade 2s. I play 4 copies of the damage on Flipper. This is a card Link Joker has been after for a really, really long time. Basically, if it hits my opponent's Vanguard, unflip damage. Now, in this deck, this is a lot more viable, because a lot of times when you're attacking with this, your opponent's Vanguard is going to be at 0 power. So, you're most likely going to be guarding the Vanguard, and then the rear guard attack goes through. Next is 4 copies of this guy. I don't know what his name is. So what he does is, when he's placed in the rear guard and your opponent's Vanguard is deleted, you lock one of your opponent's front row rear guards. It's actually pretty good. So next is 3 copies of the 12k attacker. Why do I play the 12k attacker now? Because originally Clipping Deletor was in this spot. Clipping Deletor's effect is, if your opponent's Vanguard was deleted, you counterblast 2 and superior call any grade 2 or lower deleter that was not Clipping Deletor. I mean, he was good. I will admit, he was good. But in a deck as counterblast heavy as this, and you more or less need to focus on getting the engine of the deck going, I feel like having this is better. Because even if I don't have any, like, boosters, still being able to attack for 12, most likely to a Vanguard that has 0 power, is still really effective. So I find having him is pretty good. So next is 4 copies of the Deleter Legion. So I will show you what the Legion looks like. Sorry if it looks kind of dark in the camera. It's also the fact that I only have 1 light bulb in the kitchen right now, and it's the rarity pattern that makes this card naturally dark. But to explain what he does is, when he performs Legion, you have the ability to counterblast 2 and discard a deleter from your hand, and you can delete your opponent's Vanguard. Now, what deleting is the opponent's Vanguard is flipped over, so that's all of them. So if they're in Legion, they even flip over the Legion. And they have 0 attack. I believe they can still attack. Yeah, I believe they can still attack. I'm not for sure about that. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But they would unflip at the end of their turn. Kind of basically like blocking, but for the Vanguard. So that's that. Now for Big Boss Daddy. 4 copies of Daunting Deletor, and this rarity pattern is like, oh my god, so sexy. Enough about that. Let's go into what this card actually does. What he does is counterblast 3, so move a Deletor from the rear guard into the soul, delete your opponent's Vanguard, and this card gains 10,000 power. So basically, it can get a Legion attack when it deletes, which is already really good. But then, the thing that, in my opinion, makes it better than this is its active Vanguard ability. During your opponent's turn, if this unit is in your Vanguard circle, your opponent must discard a card from their hand to be able to ride. Because a lot of times they're just like, oh wait, yeah, I don't think they can attack. Well, that's besides the point. A lot of times they'll think, oh, I need to ride, so they'll end up trying to ride. But you want to try to push them to having 1 card in their hand, because you have this guy. A lot of time people forget about that part of the ability. So it's just like, okay, you have 1 card in your hand, can't ride, don't have a card to discard. So he puts your opponent in a very, very tricky position, making them have to be a lot more conservative, which will push them further into the damage. So let's say when you use the ability again, it'll just finish off the game. So now we're going to move into what's good about the Deletor deck and what is bad about the Deletor deck. What is good about Deletors? Deletors is a very consistent deck. I will admit, it is a lot better than I originally expected. I saw the Delete ability and I'm like, this is actually pretty damn powerful. But I started to see some of the flaws with it. The amount of counterblast that it needs, the amount of basically hoping that you can get this guy. But then they show, because he was only the main Vanguard who could really do effective deleting. Then this guy was revealed, and it's just like, okay, now I can delete, even if I don't draw him. So I'm like, okay. Now that I've started to test this deck more effectively, I've realized that is extremely consistent. Now, what I will tell you, what is bad about this deck, is you need to know when to delete. If you can delete, that does not mean you have to delete. You want to be able to do it when you have a better board presence. Let's say when you have the ability to lock both of their front row rear guards. If you do that and you can delete, definitely delete. But if you do it just because, okay, I'm going to delete just because I can, they can play 2 12k attackers and say 2 6ks and they have 2 18k rows to target your Vanguard. Because this deck relies on using the deleting in combination with the front row rear guard locking to gain massive amounts of card advantage. If you lose that aspect, you'll lose the game. So that's the main problem. If you don't delete at the right time, you're gonna have a bad time. So everyone, this has been my Daunting Deletor deck profile, version 2.0. So I will hope to see you all in my next video.